Here we go, doing cat whiskers. Thank you so much for being here, fellow artist. I used an embossing tool first to indent the paper, and you can see how I go over it with a pencil and the indentation stays because the pigment did not get in the indentation. So how perfect is that to do whiskers? I then went over it with odorless mineral spirits, but I did not, as much as I could, go over the whiskers. So you can see how the background got nice and yellow. While I am waiting for the background to dry, I'm filling in the cat, the darkest areas of the cat. I am using watercolor pencils for both the background and the base layers of the cat. This is Pastelmat, where you can do a light application of odorless mineral spirits, of water, because it's got a backing to it. It's not thin paper or anything. So it has a nice backing to it, so you can easily do layers. Your first layers of watercolor are perfectly fine, which is what I did here. So I did my first layers of watercolor to get my values in. I just did black just to get in my shapes, my values, and where I'm going to go in later with more detail. And here I am using black Polychromos. Again, what I like to do is, I know this is probably only the third layer that I'm laying down, so I have a lot more to go. Now I'm doing the nose, getting in the pinky undertone colors of the nose. This is Polychromos. This is that salmon color, and again getting the flesh colors underneath. And I am blending in with the watercolor pencils, getting the flesh colors of the ears. The watercolor pencils have no oil or wax in them. They are pretty much just basically pigment, so they work really well with your regular, well, I don't know about regular, but they work well with your oil and your wax-based pencils. So they are perfectly fine to blend together. Again, you can see I'm pressing darker every time I go in, and another layer of black. I'm just going, I really want to focus, or I really did not want to lose the shape of the ear, and which is very easy to do when you have, say, an all black or an all white fur. So I went pretty dark with my black Polychromos because I know that's not going to go anywhere. And when I do apply water and start blending with water and watercolor pencils, that black Polychromos is not going to go anywhere. Again, more black Polychromos. I did pink. I did some fuchsia underneath, but I went really pink and really fuchsia because I did black on top and I did like a purpley pink on top. Now, this is Pastelmat. This is not watercolor paper. If I did say it earlier, I apologize. This is Pastelmat. So I ended up doing probably, I'm going to say like 8 layers of pencil and watercolor pencil. So I did a lot of layers. Now I'm getting the outline of the eye, being really careful not to get into that white or yellow area. That area, I was very, very cautious not to get in there because that's kind of the brightest area, besides black or white, of the little kitty. And I really wanted the yellow of her eyes, or his. I've been pretty much calling her. I really wanted the yellow of her eyes to pop, so I was very careful. Now I am I'm getting the fur and a little pinky glow in the back. It just always looks nice. I like to have a little color when you have black again or white fur, even beige fur, whatever. I always like to have a little color. It's kind of my style, maybe a little pinks and purples, just to give it a little life to the portrait. Now I switched over to Derwent Lightfast Super Sharp Dagger Sharp Pencil. I am starting to get some more detail here. And what I'm trying to do also is get rid of those little, the little hills and valleys in the Pastelmat paper. It's not quite like sanded paper, but it's close. So you actually need a lot of layers if you don't want that. So after all those layers, I went over them with mineral spirits. As you can see, odorless mineral spirits. I made some little fur-like movement made some fur-like brush stroke movements there. And this is not I actually prefer this brush because it's kind of it's a firm, stiff brush. It's just a cheapie that I got in a package, I think, at Michael's. Little Princeton brushes, but they're the inexpensive kind of pack kind, more for beginners. And I actually like it because it's really firm. And I like to kind of press hard when I do odorless mineral spirits to get what I was saying earlier, all the pigment into the hills and valleys there, the grooves into the paper there. And you can see I still have a lot left. I probably did 3 or 4 layers there of pencil, and you can still see the little specks. Now I'm doing Derwent Lightfast black, again around the ear. The cat has really dark values around her ear, and then the light is hitting the back of her head. So I want to capture the light on the back of her head, and the shadow is in front of her ear. So that is why it is so dark. So you always want to pay attention to where your light source is coming from. Now this is kind of cool. This I used Moon Glow by Derwent Lightfast. So that's why it looks a little purpley. I love using Moon Glow with black because it helps the black not look as flat. You can also do a blue undertone with black, red. It all depends, but you never want to do just black because then your black will be flat. And it doesn't take much for, to figure out. Once you do a drawing with the black pencil, you kind of figure that out fast. Are you liking the tutorial so far? If you are, please hit that like button because it really helps my channel, and I would love it if you subscribed. Love to see you for my next videos. Please leave a comment and let me know how you like it or any other videos you would like me to do. I'm totally open to anything. Colored pencil, watercolor, you got it. I am trying to get this very, very dark, really, really dark. And then because this is Pastelmat, once I have it nice and dark and I've only done maybe 3 or 4 layers, there is still tooth on the paper where I can go over and create fur with some dark grays, some I did a lot of a Payne's gray. So just a few levels, a few values down from black to create the fur. What am I doing here? I'm creating a shadow, and that is a watercolor pencil. I'm thinking it's Payne's gray. I'm creating a shadow because I wasn't happy with the yellow background. It just wasn't doing it for me, so I didn't even want to start finishing the whiskers. It wasn't working for me. I thought the yellow would be good to pick up the yellow in her eyes, which it does, but it was too dark. So what I did was I lightened it as much as I could by just picking it up with odorless mineral spirits. When that dried, I went over it. I made a shadow. I sketched out a shadow. Actually, first I did it in Photoshop. I created a shadow in Photoshop. I basically duplicated a layer and just, yeah, long story. But then I used that so I had the angles right where I wanted them first, because I knew I couldn't really erase on this. I had already have the background. I didn't want to be erasing and doing over. I really kind of only had like one chance with this. So I did it in Photoshop first. I figured out where I wanted my shadow. I went in with my graphite pencil. I sketched it out very lightly. Then I went in with watercolor pencil, like a dark gray, Payne's gray, and I used that to do a very light layer of the shadow. Are you liking the tutorial so far? If you are, please hit that like button because it really helps my channel, and I would love it if you subscribed. Love to see you for my next videos. Please leave a comment and let me know how you like it or any other videos you would like me to do. I'm totally open to anything. Color pencil, watercolor, you got it. I used a very small brush, and I did not go over the whiskers as much as I possibly could. I knew I was going to use a white marker anyway to go over them and make them white, but I still didn't want to lose my line and the whiskers. So now I'm just blending. I added a little blue over there so you can see I wanted the transition of the shadow. If you see shadows, they always kind of fade out towards the end, but as you'll see, I have kind of a hard line there for the shadow, so that was a bit of a challenge to get rid of. So here's the fun part. Whiskers! I am using the Artistro paint marker pen for this. Artistro paint marker pen. And I like this one better than my Posca because this one seemed its point was finer than the Posca. Not very much, but just a little. And remember, you have to shake it and you have to press down. I actually work on an angle, so this was a little difficult. I press down, get all the paint to the point, and then I have to work quickly to do the whiskers because just like any kind of a pen, when you're writing up or a marker, the ink kind of goes to the back. So anyway, so after they dried, I did some blending, and this is Caran d'Ache wax, and then I used black to thin out the whiskers, just trying to make them look a little bit more realistic. As you can see, the ones on the other side of her little face, her nose, they're too thick, so I had to go and do some touching up there, which is fine. This is totally fine. You can see I'm trying to fill in again the little dots there with the Pastelmat, getting in the black, and this is Faber-Castell black, which is great for detail and that sort of thing. Okay, there she is, my girl, the puppy, and there's the kitty with the whiskers, the black cat. I like how the shadow turned out. It was able to accentuate the whiskers. I did do a lot of touch-ups on them, and that's okay because this was hard. This was a hard one to do whiskers on. If you would like to see this full tutorial, please go to the link below in the description below, Molly's Fine Art Academy or Molly's Fine Art. You can get my pet portrait course discounted rate if you're watching this video, and let me know how you like the video in the comments as well, and please hit that like button. Thank you so much, fellow artists, and I'll see you again for the next video.